Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Breeze, Breezeway Productions, The Breeze, where we bring you the latest independent films and films that you can check out that are going to be released. We have director, producer Tom Putnam here with us today to talk about his documentary, The United States of Insanity. How are you,
Hey,
Tom?
Alex. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for coming on the show to talk about your doc. So tell our viewers a little bit about your documentary, The United States of Insanity.
Wow, where to begin?
Yeah.
So the film follows the world's most hated band, Insane Clown Posse, and their 1 million fans called Juggalos, as the FBI declares all of them a gang, which has never happened to a fan base before. And we filmed it over 7 years as they partner with the ACLU, try to get off the gang list, and discover that America is an amazing place, but it can also be incredibly difficult to go up against the US government when you feel like they've done something wrong. It's also a look at the subculture that I think everybody knows about, but everybody's sort of too afraid to go to a concert or the gathering or go home with some juggalos.
Yeah, I was telling you before we started the interview that I knew of ICP. I know that about the running hatchet man. I know about the face paint. I know
Yeah.
about like just like who they are in the culture, so to say. But this was definitely a deep dive to learn more about them. A little bit about their lyrics, a little bit about who they are, their backstory, how they grew up, how they're living, and things like that. They're a very influential band that has been around a very long time. So my next question is about how you came to know them and how they trusted you in making this documentary at this time and place.
So the band and their fans, I mean, I don't think there's a fan base in the world that gets worse press than they do. I mean, they get voted the worst band in the world every year, even though they've been around for 30 years. So, and my partner Brenna Sanchez and we produced and directed a documentary called Burn about the Detroit Fire Department, where we spent like 2 years riding around on fire trucks and watching buildings blow up. And it was pretty exciting. And we finished that and we're trying to figure out, wow, what do we do next that's like even 1/5 as exciting and also has some sort of message. And Brenna grew up in Detroit. She'd been really involved with the music scene there. That's where ICP's from. So she knew about them. And then she came across an article that touched on where they were at today. And it was really interesting. So she just cold called their office, because they're the only gang that has an office and sells t-shirts,
Yeah.
apparently. And said, hey, here's who we are. We think we might want to make a documentary about you. And they said, hey, can you have a film crew here tomorrow? Because we're having a press conference and announcing we're suing the FBI. And that's the first scene in the movie. And the second scene in the movie was our first interview we did with them, where we sat down and just said, hey, let's see if you like us. Let's see if we like you, if there's a story here. And it was just this amazing interview. In some ways, they were everything I expected. They were hilarious and X-rated and just said the most insane stuff. But on the flip side, I'd never done an interview where the subjects were so completely open. Any question we asked, it was clear they were telling us exactly how they felt. They didn't have an agenda. They weren't holding anything back. And even in that first interview, we discovered that their story and who they are, it's the best American dream story I've ever heard. These two guys didn't graduate high school, came from really rough backgrounds, and just out of sheer passion and hard work, built this entire world that 1 million people live in every day.
Yeah. I thought that they were very open about what's been going on with their lives. They dive into the marriage that he has when he met her in the restaurant, and then just got on the tour bus, and then started their life together, which was pretty cool. He spoke with some juggalos as well that talked about their livelihoods and their hardships for what they're going through and how they're attracted to the band. So when you got the ball rolling and that you wanted to put your documentary together, how did you place where you wanted the things to go in the progress of the film, from learning who they are to their legal battle to the gatherings and things like that? How did you end up laying it all out?
With great difficulty. The film basically started editing year one. So Sam Hook, who shares the editing credit on it, has been editing the movie for 6 years. It's been nuts. Yeah. The film, in terms of following the court case, I think pretty accurately follows our experience with them, as we thought, well, this is obviously a joke and is going to go away. But then it just kept the case kept going and going and climbing higher and higher through the court system with all sorts of ups and downs and things you'd never expect. But then there's a second movie that's happening where we go back and we go home with people. We find out what the Juggalos are all about. I mean, we interview Violent J's mom, and you know, all the archival you see in it, a lot of it is because we went through her closet and through the photo albums that nobody had looked at in 20 years and tried to give people a really personal look at these guys, which I think is so different than what people might expect. And something that's been really cool as people walk out, we just finished the theatrical release, and it's been cool to watch people walk out of the theater and they're like, I think I might be a Juggalo. Like, I kind of like the music, and they like all the same things I like. They like the Blues Brothers. They like Evil Dead. Like, and that's been great because I think people walk out of it feeling like they know who they are. They have a whole new perspective. And I think not just on the band and their fans, but just, I think the film's a good reminder that just because you don't like something doesn't mean it has value, and it sure doesn't mean that it should be illegal.
Yeah, I feel for a lot of the people that are living on this as it's their obsession, their passion, you know, their connection, and a lot of it is dealt with trauma, with early life trauma. That people that came from nothing and that they band together and they say we're a family and we're a family as it is. But then, you know, it's interesting when you showcase that people Google these things, Juggalo, all these negative articles come up. Why do you think that they get such bad press? I hear that they're defending it, saying like this is music. If this was real life stuff, we'd be locked up like forever. But why are so many media outlets out to get them?
I think they're an easy target. They're fans that, I mean, the music speaks about trauma. On the surface, it's like watching a horror movie. It's over the top and gory and hilarious. But if you listen to the lyrics, it's about things these guys have gone through, which are really rough. And that is really the only band singing about these things for someone who's a fan who's gone through something similar. And so I think as a result, everybody loves to punch down, and like Juggalos a lot of times are at the bottom of that chain. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the FBI made this the very first fan base to ever be declared a gang, when there are a whole lot of other fan bases that I think people would agree are much more dangerous. And I think as a result, it's in a lot of ways the government saying it's okay, you can hate them, they're criminal. And I think that's in some ways a continuation of the like satanic panic we saw in the 80s about heavy metal music to what NWA dealt with. I mean, there's been so many bands that have been vilified like this, but never on an official level by the US government. And I also think anytime people who are like at the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum band together and get some power, that's scary to the people that have power.
Right. Which is you actually spoke with some other people that pull over the ICP fans, and then have found like an armada of weaponry in the car. I mean, there's just some very unfortunate circumstances that happen, which is why when things are linked together, people just kind of like follow the breadcrumbs, so to say, and then say everybody is like this and do like an overall thing that they have found one bad apple, but everybody else is really, you know, just trying to enjoy the music because it's healing to them. And I can understand it. You know, I'm a diehard Fish fan. I've followed them all over the country, but they don't really get, you know, a lot of the bad press because it's very hippy dippy to a lot of people. And it's just kind of like, you know, peace and love with that music. So everyone's like, oh, you're a Fish fan, you know, obviously go ahead and do what you want. But ICP, they get a lot of the bad press for it. So the next thing that you do is you focus on the court case, which you were talking about, and that they have some people that come and join ICP and then fight for them with the ACLU going up against the FBI. How has that been going, and how did you be a fly on the wall while you were talking with the lawyers to see how they're going to build their case against the FBI?
Yeah, we went into this without any agenda. Honestly, we assumed, well, the FBI gang listed 1 million people, there must be a good reason. And the ACLU thought the same thing. But then once they looked into it and like us found there was basically no criteria. It turns out there's no official criteria for what makes a gang. It's totally arbitrary. They got on board because they felt like this was a very slippery slope. If this can happen to fans of ICP, I mean, here in LA where I live, The Crips wear Dodgers hats. Look at people who use Raiders gear. Look at singers like Snoop Dogg or Lil Wayne who openly identify as gang members. It's they recognize that this was very dangerous precedent to set, and it was awesome when they came on board, but it was also hilarious because you have these, I mean, you saw the movie, these very reserved ACLU attorneys who, you know, their favorite, the main guy's favorite band was Aerosmith, but he doesn't listen to Aerosmith anymore. It's too edgy. And now he's doing press conferences with ICP and going to court and listening to the music and having to go to the gathering. And it's kind of awesome because I think for the audience, we kind of identify with him, and we, you know, in the end, I don't want to give anything away, but he's like pretty involved.
Yeah. Well, it's good.
The court case itself is now, if they're to win their current appeal, they would go to the Supreme Court. And I think everybody agrees that's not going to happen, as much as I would love to do a sequel where ICP goes to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
I think the case, for all intents and purposes, is done. And the FBI has never apologized. They've never taken anybody off the gang list. And the film still manages, I think, to end on a pretty hopeful note, because although what we see is scary, and I think it's definitely like a call to action for people, you realize that these guys have gone from thinking this thing is a joke to becoming, I mean, they're doing marches and giving speeches on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. They're become these First Amendment warriors, and they do manage to start to win, at least in the court of public opinion.
Yeah. You got to fight the power. I mean, music has been doing that for generations. You know, you talked about the subcultures like punk and ska. There's death metal. There's a billion different types of bands and genres out there that people can fall into. I mean, I used to listen to Necro when I was in high school and college, so I get it, and I believe in that. You know, the freedom of speech and music should definitely be allowed, and that just because one thing does not equal the other, that the whole entire fan base should suffer. So I respect what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing, and I very much enjoyed your film. And I want to thank you for coming on the show to talk about the United States of Insanity. Director Tom Putnam here with us today. Where can people go to check out the film and take a look at it, whether it's your social, website, VOD? Where can people go to check it out?
You can see the film digitally on iTunes, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and we just starting Friday, we'll have a DVD out with like 6 hours of extras. I mean, 7 years. We have so much crazy footage we couldn't cram into the movie. Go to icpmovie.com.
Right on. Well, check out icpmovie.com and take a look for the United States of Insanity. And Tom Putnam, I want to thank you for coming to the show, and stay tuned for more interviews coming from the Breeze on the latest independent films coming straight to you.
Thanks, Alex.